You think people who prefer being alone are running from connection. You think they're afraid of intimacy or damaged by their past. You think solitude is just loneliness with a prettier name. But here's the uncomfortable truth. People who prefer being alone aren't avoiding life. They're protecting something most people have already lost. Their energy, their clarity, their sense of self. They don't fear connection. They fear the cost of the wrong connections. What it really says about you will surprise you. Some people feel most alive when no one is watching. They don't need an audience to validate their existence. They don't need constant conversation to feel connected. They can sit in silence and feel more present than most people feel in a crowded room. To outsiders, they might look isolated, disconnected, maybe even cold, but they're not missing out on life. They're experiencing it differently. Research suggests that people who prefer solitude often have what psychologists call high internal coherence. Their sense of identity doesn't depend on external validation. They know who they are when no one else is around, and that's a rare form of strength. Most people can't be alone with themselves for more than a few minutes. The silence becomes uncomfortable. The thoughts become too loud, so they reach for their phone, they call a friend, they fill the space with noise. But people who prefer being alone, they've learned to sit with themselves. And in that stillness, they've discovered something powerful. Peace doesn't come from other people. It comes from within. They don't need the world to tell them they matter. They've already decided that for themselves. I remember the first time someone asked me, "Don't you get lonely?" I paused, because the truth was I didn't. I had spent years trying to fit into social circles that drained me, conversations that felt like performances, friendships that required me to be someone I wasn't. Every gathering felt like work. Every phone call felt like an obligation. And somewhere along the way, I realized something. Being alone wasn't the problem. Being with the wrong people was. I started choosing solitude over shallow connection, silence over small talk, my own company over crowds that made me feel invisible. And for the first time, I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. That's when I understood. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being disconnected from yourself. And the people who prefer being alone, they've reconnected. They've found something most people spend their entire lives searching for, themselves. But here's the interesting part. It's not just a personality preference. It's biology. People who prefer being alone often have highly sensitive nervous systems. They process information more deeply. They feel emotions more intensely. They notice details others miss. Social interaction isn't just tiring for them, it's overstimulating. Every conversation requires emotional labor. Every group setting demands energy management. Every social obligation comes with a recovery period. Their nervous system craves predictability, control, quiet. Not because they're weak, but because they're wired to protect their internal balance. Think about it. When you're alone, you control the energy in the room. You control the pace, the noise level, the emotional temperature. You don't have to manage someone else's mood. You don't have to perform. You don't have to explain yourself. Your nervous system can finally rest. And that's not avoidance. That's self-preservation. Scientists have found that people who enjoy solitude show lower cortisol levels when alone compared to when they're in social settings. Their body literally relaxes. Their heart rate stabilizes. Their mind clears. For them, being alone isn't isolation. It's restoration. It's the reset button their system needs to function. While others recharge through social connection, they recharge through solitude. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different operating system. Not everyone who prefers being alone is the same. There are different types, different reasons, different strengths. The energy guardian. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their energy. They're selective, intentional. They'd rather be alone than drained by people who take more than they give. They've been burned before. They've given too much to people who gave nothing back. So now they protect what's theirs. Their time, their peace, their emotional bandwidth. The deep thinker. Their mind is a universe. They have ideas that need silence to develop, thoughts that need space to breathe. Being alone isn't boring for them. It's where their best work happens. They're the philosophers, the writers, the creators, the ones who need quiet to hear their own genius, the emotional empath. They feel everything, other people's pain, their joy, their tension. Social settings overwhelm them because they absorb too much. They walk into a room and immediately sense the energy, the unspoken conflicts, the hidden sadness, the forced smiles. It's exhausting. Solitude is where they release what isn't theirs, where they remember what belongs to them and what they've been carrying for others. The self-reliant soul. They've learned they can't depend on others to make them happy, so they built a life they don't need to escape from. They enjoy their own company because they've become someone worth spending time with. They've cultivated hobbies, interests, passions. They don't wait for someone else to make life interesting. They make it interesting themselves. The wounded healer. They've been hurt by people who didn't deserve their trust, betrayed, abandoned, misunderstood. So they retreated, not forever, just long enough to rebuild what was broken. Their solitude is temporary, but necessary. It's the cocoon before the transformation. If you recognize yourself in any of these, you're not alone in preferring to be alone. You're part of a quiet community that understands what most people never will. But here's what the world will tell you. You need to get out more. You're too isolated. Humans are social creatures. You can't be happy alone. These words carry weight because society has decided that solitude is a problem to fix. That if you're not constantly surrounded by people, something must be wrong. But what if it's not? What if the people who prefer being alone have simply outgrown the need for constant external validation? What if they've realized that quality matters more than quantity? What if they've discovered that being alone with the right person, themselves, is better than being surrounded by the wrong people. History's greatest thinkers, artists, and innovators spent significant time alone. Einstein, Tesla, Wolf, Thoreau, they didn't avoid people because they were broken. They chose solitude because it gave them clarity, because in the silence, they could hear what the noise was drowning out. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's focus. It's the ability to think without interruption, to feel without performance, to exist without explanation. And the world needs more people who can think clearly in the noise, who can stand firm in their truth even when everyone else is chasing trends, who can be still when everyone else is rushing. But here's a secret people who prefer being alone rarely say out loud. They love deeply. When they let someone into their world, it's intentional, meaningful, rare. They don't have 50 surface-level friendships. They have 2 or 3 people they'd go to war for. They don't waste words on small talk. They save their energy for conversations that matter. They don't fear intimacy. They fear fake intimacy, the kind that looks like connection but feels like performance, the kind where everyone is present but no one is really there. So if you've ever been loved by someone who prefers being alone, you would know. Because their love is quiet, but it's real. It's not loud declarations or constant attention. It's showing up when it matters. It's remembering the details. It's being present in a way most people have forgotten how to be. Because when you remove distractions, the heart learns how to focus. And that focus, it is extremely powerful. And now it's time to talk directly to you. If you are someone who prefers being alone, you've probably felt misunderstood. You've probably been told something is wrong with you, that you're antisocial, that you're missing out, that you need to change. You've probably questioned whether your need for solitude is something you should fix, whether you should force yourself to be more social, more outgoing, more like everyone else. But what if nothing is wrong? What if the world simply needs more people like you? People who don't need constant noise to feel alive. People who can sit with themselves and still feel whole. People who protect their energy instead of giving it away to anyone who asks. Your solitude is not a flaw. It's a boundary. Your preference for being alone is not loneliness. It's self-respect. Your quiet is not emptiness. It's depth. And if the world doesn't understand that yet, it's not your job to explain. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live, for what brings you peace, for what protects your mental health. The right people will understand, and the wrong people, they were never meant to stay anyway. Because here's what people who prefer being alone have figured out. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to understand yourself. You don't need to be surrounded by people to feel connected. You need to be connected to your own truth. You don't need to apologize for choosing peace over chaos, for choosing depth over distraction, for choosing yourself. The people who prefer being alone aren't running from the world. They're running towards something most people never find: themselves, their purpose, their peace, their power. They've learned that the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. And if that foundation is weak, everything else crumbles. So they invest in themselves, they protect their energy, they honor their needs, and in doing so, they become the kind of person who doesn't need saving, who doesn't need fixing, who doesn't need constant reassurance. They become whole, and that wholeness is magnetic. So keep your mornings quiet, keep your space sacred, keep choosing solitude when the world demands performance. Because the people who prefer being alone are the ones who teach the world that you don't need a crowd to matter. You just need to matter to yourself. You don't need applause to know your worth. You don't need validation to trust your path. You don't need permission to live the way that feels right for you. And maybe that's the most powerful lesson of all. That peace isn't found in the noise, it's found in the silence. That strength isn't measured by how many people surround you. It's measured by how comfortable you are when no one does. That happiness isn't about filling your life with people. It's about filling your life with meaning. Before you go, subscribe if you want more videos that decode human behavior and emotional power. You're watching Pragmatic Principles.